So hello Year 11, today I am going to be showing you how to revise for your English literature exam. Now there are a whole range of strategies that you can use to help you revise, and it's really important to find what works best for you. However, today I'm just going to focus on three main strategies. So the first one is using our revision webs. Our second is how we can use flashcards. And last but not least is the good old-fashioned mind map. And perhaps most importantly, what I'm going to be sharing with you today is how you can use the resources that you already have available to you. So that will be using your knowledge organisers and your revision guide. So let's get started. Okay, Year 11, so one of the first revision strategies that I'm going to share with you is how we can use a revision web as part of our revision. So for example, if we were going to look at A Christmas Carol, what we would do is take any theme or character from the novel and place that in the middle of our revision web. So let's go for a nice and easy one here. We'll just look at Scrooge. And then I'm going to show you how we might use our knowledge organiser to help us with our revision. So if we look here, we have some key information, key quotations. I'm going to take this quotation here from my knowledge organiser. So the fact that Scrooge is as solitary as an oyster. And I am going to place this here on my revision web. And then what I'm going to do is use the outside of the revision web to do my analysis. So the first thing that I might say about a solitary as an oyster is that this is a simile, and it's a simile that is obviously used to show us that Scrooge is isolated at the beginning of the text and that he is an outsider to society. And then we know that we have to explore our quotations in much more detail, so I might choose to look at the comparison to an oyster and then talk about the fact that this is significant as oysters have quite hard shells. Significant as oysters have hard shells, which links to the idea that Scrooge has a hard exterior. We could also look at the idea that an oyster has a pearl inside it. Now this is something that was incredibly rare. It was incredibly rare to find an oyster, a pearl, sorry, inside an oyster. But that's quite interesting, as we could explore this in two ways. So one interpretation is that pearls are of course a good thing. So this suggests that there is a goodness within Scrooge. And it also suggests this idea of value and wealth, again showing that Scrooge has wealth. Now I'm not going to continue here because I'm obviously writing in quite a bold pen. In yours you will write much smaller so that there's lots more information that you can fit here. But what we might comment on is also making our link to AO3, and perhaps Dickens is sort of criticising that rarity. It was rare for people to have this goodness and this generosity within them in such a sort of capitalist society of Victorian England. So I might comment here more about how Dickens sort of criticises society, and I would have much more room to write that. And then what you would do, Year 11, is take further quotations and you would have further exploration of them, and you can use your knowledge organisers to help you do that. Okay, so one more technique that I am going to show you is how you can use flashcards. And again, I'm going to be using one of our knowledge organisers. This is our Power and Conflict knowledge organiser to help us with our revision. So, take a flashcard and we might choose any one of our poems. So if we look here, see all of our poems are numbered. I'm going to choose number 11, which is Kamikaze. And that's what I would do, nice and simple, Year 11, is I'm just going to note down the key information from our knowledge organiser here. So some of the key context is that Kamikaze centred around like the Second World War, 75 million people died. Japanese pilots were trained to bomb ships. Now I think that's key information from Kamikaze, so I will write here that Japanese pilots were trained, and I would continue then to make key notes from my knowledge organiser on this side of my flashcard. What I then might do is, how I like to work with flashcards, is have a piece of key information on the front, and then whatever I want to remember about it on the back. And again, using the knowledge organiser, I'm looking for number 11 because that's focused on Kamikaze, which is here. I might choose on my flashcard to have a key quotation. So taken from the knowledge organiser, that is a shaven head full of powerful incantations. And once I've got that on one side of my flashcard, on the other side, what I might choose to do is break it down and have the explanation. And again, I'm using my knowledge organiser here to help me, because in that process where you are reading something again, you are making notes on it again, you are writing it down again, that repetition, hopefully year 11, will help us to remember. So here I would say the word incantations implies that kamikaze pilots are under spells and are being controlled against their will. And I will continue with that analysis on this side of my flashcard. Then when it comes to revision, I have this side with key bits of information on my quotation. I'm going to cover that up, see if I can remember the quotation, see if I can really sort of embed that in my memory. And then I'm going to try and think of what the analysis was. So the idea that an incantation suggests it's a spell, it suggests that they are sort of coerced and under control. Turn it around and check that my explanation, my analysis was accurate, and I will continue to do that until hopefully some of those key quotations and key analysis are embedded, and then I would continue to look at other key quotations or methods or structure that are used within the poems to note that down. Okay? And then finally, guys, the last thing that I wanted to share with you is a fantastic resource that all of you have, which is your revision guide that was given to you. Now what I wanted to do is just show you the wealth of things that you have in here. So one of the most useful things is the knowledge organiser. So you can use that to help you with any flashcards, with your revision web, with any of your mind maps. But you also have practice questions at the back there as well. So if ever you want to do any extra revision and practice these exam skills, your English teacher would be more than happy to have a look at your essays and get those marked and give you feedback. And you also have worked exam style questions so that you can see that you have got examples of how to plan an answer and then how to answer it as well. Reading those, making notes on those revision webs is also a really good sort of valuable question, a valuable technique to use as well. What I'm going to do is just show you just one last technique, which is our good old sort of reliable mind map. So like I said, it's really important for you guys to find what technique might work well for you. So for example, part of your literature exam with 24 marks is your unseen poetry. So you'll be asked to look at a poem that you've never seen before and write about it, and you have to show your understanding of it, but also your understanding of methods, so poetic techniques or poetic methods. So one thing that you could do, and this is a really handy page in your revision guide, is you have all of the material that you might need, so you can look at rhyme, rhythm, how poets use punctuation, how poets use voice, different sort of sounding words, enjambment, caesura, all different techniques that poets might use. And what you might do is just make, like I said, a good old-fashioned mind map where you are taking some of the key information from your knowledge organiser. So if I talk about sort of voice and perspective, I might sort of revise how from here the narrator might speak in first person or third person. And again, going back to my revision guide, it says here that a first person voice gives one person's perspective and it often makes the poem more personal. So first person is much more personal, and third person, taking it again from my revision guide, a third person voice is more detached from the action. It can give an outside perspective. So I might make the note here that that's much more detached. I could even take that further again, because this is really key information here, that we see the use of first person in the emigre, which allows the narrator to speak personally about her childhood. So I might use the emigre here as an example and make notes about this idea if it's a more personal account of childhood. And again, what I will do is continue my mind map, making notes using my knowledge organiser to help me. And that's almost the first step. So they are 3 different strategies that you can use as part of your revision. But like I said, it's about finding what's right for you. The next step then, and this is where your revision guide will come in handy as well, is what you then do with all of that revision material, and hopefully we will apply it. So if you turn to the back of your booklet, you will see that you have got lots of practice questions. So I might take, for example, my revision card for Kamikaze, and I might revise this poem in a lot of detail and then attempt a question on it. And the practice make, I know it's a saying that you probably might hate to hear, but practice really does make perfect, and the more questions that you practice and have a go at, the better. And like I said, everything that you do, your teacher will be more than willing to mark for you. So now you know how to revise, guys, it's over to you to practice. So good luck, Year 11, and happy revising.